Greetings to all. This is a session we are having on the application of human genetics from the course on biological anthropology. Um, so there are major domains that we'll be covering in this presentation. Essentially, something going beyond your applications that have been mentioned in the syllabus per se. So we'll be discussing about genetic imprinting, genetic screening, genetic counseling, genetic therapy, genetic mapping, DNA profiling, how prenatal diagnosis is used, and the paternity testing. So starting with the presentation today. Firstly, gene imprinting. So this technique is defined as a differential inheritance of genetic material from mother and the father. And basically it is visualized that the males and the female parental contribution to genome is not truly equivalent, and the function of the chromosome differs depending on whether it is inherited from the mother's side or the paternal side. Because the paternally derived genes are important for the purpose of development of the placental tissues per se, and the maternally derived ones are important for the embryo development. Okay, so this theory of this technique of genome imprinting is basically based on this principle that in certain cases these genetic defects will produce a certain phenotype which is only derived from a given parent, a particular side of the line. Okay. Example, when we take the example of Placer-Wiley syndrome, which is paternally derived, it's observed that it's caused by the deletion of 11 to 13 segment on the longer arm of the chromosome number 15. So this is one good example used for the significance or the principle of genome imprinting. And there's an Angelman syndrome, which is again maternally derived, and again it is because of the deletion at the segment 11 to 13 on the chromosome number 15. Right now, this application is basically based on this technique of selective methylation of genome. So what is it? Like in female, one of the two sex chromosomes gets inactivated so that only one of them is expressed, and therefore in this process particularly the methylation of the inactive chromosome corresponds to the imprinting process. So therefore this technique overall helps us to understand the effects of chromosomal deletions in different sexes and the variations of the diseases with respect to the gender. Okay, quite clear, I guess. The next one is genetic screening. So it again refers to an application of tests to a group of people or to a particular individual for the purpose of detecting the carriers of certain deleterious genes or the chromosomal arrangements, right? Now, how is this process done? So firstly, there's a collection of a sample which could be of your blood, your skin, your hair. It's collected and it is sent to the lab, and there are specific changes which are observed generally in terms of your chromosomes, structure of the chromosome or the DNA or the proteins, and the results are then sent to the doctor or whosoever is the genetic counselor that you are dealing with, and thus using this lab report or the reports that are given based on the lab analysis, they usually detect whether the individual has a genetic disorder or not. They try to identify whether the individual or the couple who are going to have a child, or they are at the risk of having that genetic disorder or not. And more or less it also creates an epidemiological database for as a sort of knowledge base for understanding more of genetic disorders for future aspects. Okay, but this comes again with certain limitations. So firstly, this solution generally to people who are going for genetic screening is given to do the abortion, and which for most of the families appears to be undesirable and unfeasible for many. So in most of the cases, we generally see abortion as the only solution to the genetic disorders that one possesses. Moreover, it's quite expensive, it's painstaking task, especially when we talk about India. Okay. The third one is genetic counseling. Now, this technique is observed as a process which deals with the human problems that are associated with the risk of occurrence of genetic disorder in the family. Okay, so how is it done again? There are different stages of this process. Firstly, whenever you go to a genetic counselor, they try to ask your history, I mean, specifically the medical history, and then they try to construct your pedigree for the analysis of any form of mode of inheritance, or any familial background that has any form of medical history for that matter, right? Then again, genetic screening is done, as we have discussed in the previous technique, right? They send the samples, they analyze the desirable components, and they send back the report. Now, based on that report, there is certain prognosis, the diagnosis that is done by the doctor or the counselor per se, and they confirm or they discard certain list of conditions that you were probable to have, right? So at that point, they will also analyze whether there is certain mode of inheritance that is recognizable from your overall analysis of your pedigree, of your sample collection overall, right? Then the fourth step is counseling interview. Now, when all of this analysis and diagnosis happens, you are conveyed the report. The results is conveyed to you, and there is a confirmation given that you or any person who has undergone all these processes, possess this condition. So detailing of all the list of disabilities that are associated with it, all the consequences are informed. So a person is given all the conditions, all the probabilities of having this and that, and based on that, there are a list of treatment and prescriptions or things like that are provided by the counselor's side or the doctor's side to the parents or to the person themselves, so that they could either undergo medications if it could help with the medications, if it could not help with the medication, if it requires a surgery, they are recommended for a surgery, or let's say for a gene therapy. So depending on the condition, one is given a list of options that they can go for. But this technique comes with a limitation that mostly this is limited to surgery and advices alone in most of the cases because of lack on the technological front in Indian context specifically. But we can say that with the advancements of technology recently coming up, we can aim for betterment in the therapies process per se. Now, what is the application of gene therapy in human genetics? So, what is gene therapy? First of all, National Institute of Health defines gene therapy as a way to introduce the genetic material into the cells to compensate for the abnormal genes or to make a beneficial protein, right? Through this process, basically a mutated gene which causes a necessary protein to be faulty or missing in the body. Using the process of gene therapy, we may be able to produce a normal copy of that gene and thereby introduce the function that protein was lacking or it was excessively producing. So, according to the gene's condition, the therapy is being invested upon. Now, how does it happen? There are three ways to do it: gene replacement, gene targeting, and gene augmentation. Gene replacement basically replaces the defective gene with the normal gene, and the technique of recombinant DNA technology is used for this purpose. For gene targeting, there's a defective gene. We correct the defect gene. Unlike the previous step, here we correct the defect gene by introducing a complementary part of it. Okay. Third is gene augmentation. There's this introduction of few or more copies of that gene in case that gene is not fully functional. Okay, 3 different steps. But also this technique has been used so far in not many conditions like ADA deficiency, sickle cell anemia, cystic fibrosis, thalassemia, and also comes with few challenges. For example, it's quite complicated. For example, if in terms of delivering the normal gene at target site and then switching it on. It's quite complicated process. Avoiding the immune response triggered by the intervention that we have done, right? That also needs to be monitored. Then we need to avoid any form of degradation or there's any disruption of any enzyme in functioning of its neighboring gene. That also it needs to be checked upon. So things need to be monitored and it's quite complicated process. Moreover, it's high cost and it has limited availability, especially again in context. Now the next is DNA profiling. This technique is also called as DNA fingerprinting. This is a technique by which individuals can be identified. They could be compared through their respective DNA characteristics. It was invented in 1984 by Sir Alec Jeffreys. The principle of this technique basically is that 99% of human DNA sequence is same for all human beings, right? But there's particular sequence of repeating patterns in DNA that are observed, which are called as variable number tandem repeats, VNTRs, which are very unique to every single individual. Thus, they form the basis of this technique, the understanding of VNTRs. Okay. Now, how is this technique helpful in human genetics? Firstly, it helps us understanding the paternal dispute, identifying the maternity and paternity lines for a person. Then it's again used in forensic anthropology for the criminal investigations, personal identification, etc. And it's also used in providing medical information, like if any person has medical allergy sort of thing or any form of medical history that a person bears. So that could be identified through this process. Okay. Next is prenatal diagnosis. This refers to a certain procedure undertaken to diagnose the genetic abnormalities and the structural anomalies which are often there in the early embryo or fetus in order to undertake timely prenatal counseling and thereby use appropriate interventions for the same. Right? Thus, it allows a timely termination of any pregnancy or reducing the chances of any later infant mortality because of any genetic disorder or any genetic issue associated with the fetus. There are certain risk factors which could be responsible for genetic predisposition. For example, maternal age, any previous medical history of the mother or the individual or the family per se, and that could be helpful in undergoing a prenatal diagnosis. Like if a person knows that they are in above 30 age group, or say they have a family background with certain disease, so they should be undergoing the prenatal diagnosis for the safer side, and like to be sure that they do not have a child who bears certain genetic condition. Now, there's a timely medical treatment possible before or even after birth as per the need of the condition. The parents here in this case are the only decision makers to either continue or to abort the fetus with the diagnosed condition. Thus, this process generally helps the parents to make a very informed choice, because also to some extent this thing is affecting and also preparing them socially, financially, medically and psychologically, because the baby could possess any form of developmental challenge, right? So they're informed beforehand that this could be the consequence, and so they have to take their own decisions. And in a way, we are also determining the outcome of a pregnancy, right? The last domain that we're discussing here is paternity testing. Pretty sure you would have heard of it. This is one of the most popular form of DNA testing. The paternity testing, as we know, it helps to discover the biological link between a prospective father and a child. Furthermore, this link could be extended to identifying siblings or the grandparents or any missing relative. Also to distinguish between the adopted child. Then if somebody's baby got exchanged in a hospital or something like that happened, so that doubt could be clarified. Or in matters of obtaining the custody of somebody, resolving the issues of inheritance, a lot many things. It has a lot many applications in the current day life. And this to like 99% at least, this test confirms the probability. Okay. Now, like any other DNA test, this test also could be conducted through any of your sample which could contain DNA, like your saliva, your blood, hair, teeth, nails, your toothbrush, anything. And generally, the test here maintain confidentiality, and without consent, they could not be used for any form of legal proceedings, right? So these were some of the major domains of different applications that we come across in recent times on the applications of human genetics. There are more because it's a very wide scope, very wide subject. So let's keep this question open for you. List out certain different applications of human genetics. Try to think beyond those we have discussed in the presentations. Also briefly discuss the usefulness of genetic counseling as an application to human genetics, right? Down in 150 words. I hope you liked the video.